Hello everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of Quick Review. Today we have a 2-in-1 episode as I'm going to be covering the original War for Cybertron Optimus Prime and Bumblebee figures. These are both deluxe classes, and right out of the gate, I have a controversial opinion as I actually think these are better. And I promise you, I am not looking at these figures with rose-tinted glasses on, the nostalgia goggles, whatever you want to claim. I just think these are better. Now, I do have my reasons as to why I think these are better, and no, it's not just nostalgia, but I personally believe that this version of Bumblebee has a bit more detail, and the legs are a bit more accurate. And Prime, well, he has panels that actually fill up the back of his truck mode, unlike the new Studio Series where you could just see his arms awkwardly hanging off the back. I don't know why that's a thing with new Transformers, it's kind of annoying, but we're going to be starting with Bumblebee. So getting into the pros and cons of this figure as compared to the newer one, this figure has more detail and is a little bit more accurate in his robot mode as opposed to the new one. And he also has translucent clear wheels, which if you shine a light through it, you can capture that glow effect from the games. Most importantly, this older one is a little bit easier to transform, which says a lot because if you remember these figures, they're all kind of a pain in the ass to transform. Especially Prime, which we'll take a look at later. But here in robot mode is where a lot of the issues start to face because he's very kibbly, and a massive issue is that because his feet are on ball joints, they're very easy to pop off and lose. Thankfully, you only really need one to get him to stand up, but one thing he does do better than the Studio Series is that he has flip-out Energon swords, which are a bit more accurate to how they appear in-game, because they do come out from his wrist rather than being a handheld weapon. And also, these are translucent red, which is how they appear in-game. But overall, the legs on this guy are more accurate to how they appear in-game, and his chest is actually his chest, whereas on the new Studio Series, he's got kind of like a dad bod going on, so overall, I think this is the better of the two. But we're going to get into some size comparisons now, and here I have a figure that I'm pretty sure everyone has, or at least has some variant of by now. It's Siege Sideswipe, and Bumblebee is slightly bigger than Sideswipe, which is nice. He is a 2010 figure back when they did not used to cheap out on plastic and actually put quality in their figures, but here he is next to Tarn. And Tarn is much bigger, understandably, because he is a Voyager, but he's still decently big compared to Tarn. So, not bad for a 2010 figure. Moving on to Prime now, and this is probably my favorite out of all of the War for Cybertron figures. His truck mode looks so nice, it's so sleek, it's just sexy. And I do think this is a little bit better just because of the way how he transforms, so they're able to get it a bit more accurate in my opinion, other than the little bits at the top being gray as opposed to blue, but you could always just fix that with some paint. Getting into transformation now this is where I gotta hand it to the new Studio Series because they did make him a lot easier to transform as opposed to this guy. I sped this up, and it still took me quite a while, and I still missed a step. Just because this guy is so, complex and so over the top. It's really complicated to transform, but for as involved as this transformation may be, it's really clever, and it leads to a really nice-looking robot mode. Sure, he may not be as bulky and as chonky as he appears in games, so Studio Series does that a little bit better. But one thing the Studio Series doesn't have is the Autobot logo on his back. This one does actually have it, but unfortunately both of them seem to have that little hood piece that goes over their back. I feel like that's one of the unavoidable things about this particular design, but getting into size comparisons, he is much bigger than Siege Sideswipe. Keep in mind, they are both deluxes. Moving on to Tarn now, and again, Tarn is going to be a little bit bigger just because he's a Voyager, but he's almost as big as Tarn. Just goes to show that back in the day, like, they made some pretty hefty figures, and they did not skip out on plastic as where we get, like, small little bite-sized figures today for ridiculous prices. But here he is next to his wave mate Bumblebee, and he is a little bit bigger than Bumblebee, as he should be. And here are the real War for Cybertron characters beating up the War for Cybertron Siege Sideswipe. Poor Sideswipe. But at the end of the day, it's all up to personal preference and personal opinion, so if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more of them, be sure to like and subscribe as it greatly helps out the channel.